little bit about what I found out about my growing up. Seems like my conception was not average. My mom told me she was barren for many years while she was married to my dad. And she told me I guess once they decided they didn't want to be together anymore, she didn't want to be with him. My dad has always loved my mother, even after the divorce, even after her death. But so when she decided she wanted a divorce, and she got a divorce from my father, I guess in the process of the divorce, she became pregnant. I guess when it was just about to be finalized. And from what she told me, she was still going through abductions when she was married to my dad. And I believe that I was created at the end of their marriage because of her being taken aboard ship. And from what she told me, they always did experiments on her. Took samples from her body, eggs, blood, DNA, all of that. And I truly believe that somehow humanity is directed. I don't know if this is what, soul contracts coming in or outside interference, guiding people to be together, and sometimes just to be together to procreate and then get out of each other's lives. But for my mother, I believe that whatever they did to her to allow her body to procreate, they had a hand in it. And also used that opportunity to insert me, to put me in place. And the reason why I feel this is because what she told me about her being completely barren. No, she couldn't get pregnant. And then at the end of the divorce, at the end of the marriage, getting to the finalization of the divorce, and she's being abducted, and she ends up pregnant. Now, I don't know. She never told me anything about the pregnancy with me. If it was like a normal pregnancy, if she, had normal cravings and things like that. She never discussed any of that with me. I have no knowledge of it. And she was divorced from my father by the time I came into the world. So, he doesn't have any information to give me about, the 9 months or so that I was cooking in the oven. But it kind of confirms my suspicions that the creation of me is different. That some ET added some of whatever they are or whatever they deal with into the creation of me. My mom told me as a baby, I was different. She told me that, and from the way that she was talking, it was like she was scared of me or scared of what I might become. I don't know. But she said, and I didn't believe her at the time because it just seemed so outrageous. But she told me that I never crawled, that at 6 months of age, I literally stood up and ran across the room. She said I scared the sugar honey iced tea out of her because she didn't even know I could walk or stand up or balance. And here I am. I just got up and ran across the room. She said she almost had a heart attack. And I'm like, 6 months? I'm like, later on in life, I had a baby. I'm like, 6 months? You're tall. You're just a smidge. You're just a couple of freaking inches off the ground. What the hell is she talking about? And I was like, nah, she's got to be mistaken. She's the mom. She knows. And then, I did some research, Googled, and I'm like, well, they say a human child can't run, can't, walk across the floor, can't do these things. That's what they say a human child can't do. And I'm like, okay, well, maybe a hybrid child can. And now, since the pandemic babies, yeah, they're 6 months old out here walking and running across freaking floors now. They're running across rooms. They're 6 months old. They're talking. They're doing it all. So I'm like, well, damn. I was doing that in 1960 fucking 8. Excuse my French. So maybe my mother wasn't telling me a tall tale. Maybe she was telling me her experience with me and why some of the things that I did, which for her were not normal. If my daughter at 6 months would have ran across the floor, I'd have been scared. I'm like, what the hell? What are you doing? But so she told me that's what I did at 6 months. She also told me that I was speaking and interacting with people at a very, very young age. I guess I probably could see energies, beings or whatever as a little baby, as a kid. And I probably said, whatever that would be odd to other people, but would be like completely normal to me. Like, I see auras. I've always seen auras, and it's like normal for me. I can't imagine walking through life and not seeing the energies coming off of a tree or the energies coming off of another person or a dog or a bird. It's just intrinsically a part of me. So these things are just what, I've grown up with. Feeling energies, feeling, I don't know, I guess you would call them spirits. Not really being afraid, but, being aware. I was always aware. So, and I've always, when I was young, I always said that I'm not from here. I'm not from here. I think I always told people, this is a little kid. This is like, 6 years old and up, whatever. I told them I was from planet Quasar. I'm a Quasarian. I'm like, I don't know what that planet is. I don't know if that planet really exists. I have no idea in my adult state now. I don't know. But that's what I would tell people. I was from planet Quasar. I never claimed to be an earthling. I never claimed to be a full human. I, mm-mm. I always felt different, and I always told people I'm different. I'm not like you. I'm different. So that was my babydom. I don't remember walking or running across the room at 6 months. Now, my childhood memories are sketchy. And this is something that I will go into regression to see if I can retrieve. I think it's important. I remember like when we lived in a house in the Bronx. When I think I was like about, I don't know, maybe 10 years old then. I don't really remember anything prior to 10 years old. Like, well, other than like 6 years old, with, telling people I was from that planet. So say from 6 to 10, those 4 years, I don't really have memories, of, mom or dad or doing stuff. It's just blank. So I'm thinking maybe something happened during that time frame, and I need to talk to my higher self, my consciousness, and see if I can find some information out. So I'll say between 6 years old and 10 years old, I need to fill in that gap. And, from 10 and up, I'm pretty good. The next chat, I'm trying to keep these things linear, but I really don't think in a linear pattern. Time is just always moved differently around me. And my relationship to time has always been different. So I'm going to try to keep telling my experiences in a linear type of way. So that's my babydom. And yeah. Now, to coincide with that, my mother's babydom, she told me that from around the ages of 5 or 6, that's when she started having experiences of seeing lights in the sky, and then especially over the barn, she said. So I'm assuming her family lived on a farm. And she said she would see lights over the barn, and that she had memories of, I guess, these beings and just being taken. She didn't say experimented on. She didn't mention tables or anything. I guess because she was so young at that stage, she was just telling me what she remembered. And she always said she remembered the strange lights, always seeing strange lights, and she mentioned over a barn. later on in life, and see, this is how I can't really keep it linear. Later on in life, she made a full-blown confession to exactly what she had been interacting with from about the age of 5 or 6. And that was when I was in high school. I was in high school then, not junior high. I was in high school then. And me and my baby sisters, it's a big age difference between us. We were watching I was watching X-Files. And sitting on the floor in the living room. And it was an episode with Mulder and Scully. I think they, I don't know what they was doing, but it had Grey's in it. It had Grey's in this episode. And, I'm sitting at the TV. I'm glued. The baby sisters, they're on the floor. They're glued. And my mom had walked through to go to the back of the house, probably heading to the kitchen or the bathroom or something. And then when she came back, all of a sudden she turned, and she actually, I guess, was cognizant, noticed what we were watching. And all of a sudden she just collapsed on the couch. And, that wasn't anything new. Maybe she wanted to watch it too. And I heard her say in a very small voice, "I have seen those." And I really didn't pay much attention. I was on the show. And I was like, "What you say, Ma?" And she goes, "I have seen those." And I was like, "Seen what?" And she pointed to the screen. "Those creatures." And I was like, "What? You seen Grace? You seen Grace?" And that was it for me, man. That episode was done and done. It was a wrap. I jumped up from the floor and I threw myself in the arm of the couch, and she didn't allow us to sit on the arm of the couch. And I did. I was like, "What are you saying? You've seen these things?" And she just had this haunted look on her whole face. And then she just started telling me. And the baby sisters are sitting there and they're looking. They're so young. They didn't even know what she was talking about. They didn't even know what they was watching. And she started talking about when she was young that these beings would come for her. And then, she saw lights in the sky. And then she told me about the time when we lived in the Bronx. Because we had basically just moved into this 3-bedroom apartment in a private house in the Bronx from living in our own private house in the Bronx. And she told me about an abduction out of that house. Next episode, I'll go into that house, because that house in and of itself was a lot. It was positive energies. It was negative energies. There was shadow people. That house had it all. And an abduction. And she told me at that point of time that she had been abducted out of that house. She only mentioned one abduction out of that house. That she was in her room and she was preparing to receive a phone call from her husband, my stepfather. He worked nights, and at midnight, every night he went to work, he would call my mom, so whether I was asleep or awake or waking up to go to the bathroom or whatever, the phone always rang at midnight. And she said it was about, I think she said it was about 5 minutes to midnight. And she said she was laying on the bed, TV was on, lights was on, she had her Bible and by the phone, because at midnight when you would call, they would do their Bible study. And she said all of a sudden there were 3 beings around her, one at the foot of her bed and one on each side of her bed. And the way she described them, it would sound like a gray. She was like, they was between 3 to 4 feet tall. They had dark gray skin, And she said the eyes, she goes, those eyes mesmerized. She said the eyes were huge and the heads were big. And she said long skinny arms and skinny fingers, but she didn't say like if she noticed how many fingers or if they had feet or toes. She didn't mention that. She just said that she was laying on her bed, just straight up, and they surrounded the bed, and then she said the next thing she knew, she couldn't move. The only thing she could move was her eyes. So she's looking at them. And then she said the next thing she knew, she was like floating up off the bed. They were floating up too. And she said she literally floated through the roof, through the ceiling of the bedroom to the outside. And she said she could see the stars. She could see she was outside and she was going up. She said it was something like a brilliant light, and she was going up towards a brilliant light. And as she said she was looking up, she said she could see a circle in the sky with lights. So I was assuming she was talking about a saucer shape. And I'm like, what the fuck? And I'm like, because thinking back as she's telling me this story, I'm like, we kids were there. I was in my bedroom. My baby sisters, they were in their bedroom. And our house was shaped like, my bedroom was in the back by the bathroom. My baby sister was like the middle bedroom. And our parents' bedroom was in the front. So like kind of like train track, train style. Boom, boom, boom. So I'm like thinking to myself as she's telling me this story, so like if they're taking you, what the fuck were they doing to us? Because I was in my room, 2 little kids was in another room, all 3 of us were defenseless, unprotected. Why wouldn't they have taken us too? So she never mentioned that she saw us being taken too. So she just said that she went up. And then she said she did mention something about being in a brilliant light. Like light was coming from everywhere. So she said it was just everywhere. And then she was like placed on a surface. She said it must have been some type of a table. And then she said some equipment came down and the beings started doing stuff. And then she said the next thing she knows, she woke up and she's laying on the bed, and then the phone rings, like in that order. She has no memory of being returned off of the ship. She has no memory of seeing the beings again. She has no memory of exactly what they did to her. And she was back in bed. And the phone is ringing. So within that 5-minute span, she had an abduction. She says she answered the phone. She talked with her husband. But come to find out, she never told him about that experience. She says she never told anyone in her life about her experiences until now. And I really think she only told me because of that episode of X-Files. If that episode wasn't on, she would have never said anything. My mother, she long passed away. She would have took that to her grave. She would have never, ever told me about her experiences at all. And especially not the abduction in the Bronx. So I think that's where I'll leave it right now. So I'm trying to keep it linear. So you got some of my babyhood experiences, some of my mom's experiences that I remember her telling me. And you got the first abduction that she told me fully about from what she remembered. I mean, if my mom was still alive, I would pay for her to get a regression to find out exactly why these beings just stalked her life. When she told me about, these abductions and constant, pretty much harassment, her whole life of being taken and experimented on, I developed such a hatred for the Greys. And then now learning that a lot of them are robotic, a lot of them are like AI. They're basically just machines that work. I still had a hatred for them, for what they put my mother through. I just had a hatred. And also unknowing that I could be some of them too. I don't know. I don't know what they mixed into my genome. But something was mixed into my genome. So that's where I'll leave it. And next time I'll pick up from the high strangeness in the house in the Bronx where my mom reported to me that she was abducted from. And when I do go for my regression, that is definitely one of the questions that I want more information about. Did me and my baby sisters experience an abduction then too? And also with me, I know I have high strangeness. I have missing time, and I've had physical evidence. I've been taken lots of times, but I want to know more information about it and why and who are the beings. So I'll leave it at this time. This is Angel Lori, trying to figure all this stuff out, same as you. Good night.